Hey everybody, Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Texas. As you can see, I have a new hat on today. Yes, I'm the proud wearer of a. Hey everybody, Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting live. See, I have a hat on today. Proud wearer. There we go. Yeah, I just had to mute a couple things here. Yeah, I'm the proud wearer of a Bear baseball cap. Well, you might be wondering, well, what is Bear? Well, Bear is the one of the leading manufacturers of compound bows. And, I'm not doing a commercial for Bear. However, before we launch into today's 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 25 minutes thereabouts, I want to introduce you to a new member of the Phoenix household here. This is a compound bow. See this right here? Okay, right there. This is a Bear compound bow, and I just got it. So I've been wanting to take up archery for a very long time. And I thought with Jupiter and Sagittarius, this would be a good opportunity for me to take up the one of the most royal sports in the history of the planet. And I shot my first set of arrows yesterday, and it was pretty cool, I gotta say. And I think there's gonna be a lot more in the future. And it's been kind of an interesting transition living in a place like the Hill Country in Texas. And basically, you know, basically, blending in with the culture, like what's going on here? What do people do? And instead of me trying to superimpose my kinds of attitudes or beliefs onto the geographical area that I live in, which to some extent I'm kind of doing because of the fight against fluoridated water, which I feel very strongly about here. I decided to blend and learn from my environment, literally and figuratively. So my journey as an archer has just begun, and I thought I'd share that with you. And the reason why I'm doing it is because I wanted to, test myself and do things that I haven't done or experienced before. And I think that's part of living and growing and stretching our boundaries and our capacity and what we believe in and how we can grow, get into areas that are new and challenging, and we get to test ourselves and learn new things. So that's part of it too. Anyway, I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to learning more about this piece of equipment and what it does and where it takes me, which is probably going to be out there in the wilderness, in the wild, so I can get my caveman on, my hunter-gatherer on, so to speak. Let's see what's going on in the chat room today. Let's see, we've got Juana and Chris and Steve and Anna and Ani and Christine. Always want to learn archery. Yeah, man, I'm into it. I want to get a recurve bow too. They're very different. But and oh, look at that. Christine says she watched Robin Hood last night. How funny. Hey, it's Jupiter and Sagittarius. A Sticky Mark says I have a pistol grip crossbow and full longbow. Right on. We got some archery connections here. Right. And the whole idea with archery is to find that target. I tell you, I'll give you a little archery story here real quick. And hey, Charles, care for those tree stands. A long time ago, I was at one of these Renaissance fairs, and it was just kind of a lark thing, and I decided to do the longbow. And when I did it, my first shot it was terrible. It was really bad. And then a guy came over and said, well, this is what you want to do. You want to pull back all the way, blah, blah, blah. And I did. And it's a whole row of people, right? And I pull it back and bang, I hit a bullseye. And they stopped the competition. I was like, whoa, what happened here? And they announced that I'd hit a bullseye, and they pulled me out, and they hooked me up with this guy who was, playing the role of a squire. And he told me about his job as a squire, and that he would buy me a cup of mead or ale over at and so it was really a trip. But the feeling of pulling back in that bow and hitting that bullseye, man, that was great. It's always stayed with me. So many years later, I decided to get in on the game at a kind of a higher level. So anyway, there it is. Hey, Terry, what's going on, Terry? There's Lori. So today I'm going to be talking about a couple different things. I'm going to be talking about this whole slippery slope known as morality. I'm going to wrap it around and weave it around at least 3 or 4 different pieces of information and things that are actually happening out there in the news and the world. I mean, we've been talking about morality a lot lately due to the fact that, well, we decided that somewhere along the line it was okay to kill babies, especially in New York City, New York State, and last week in Virginia, of course, Mr. Ralph Northam, who is still the governor of Virginia. Last time I checked, that guy's not going anywhere. He'll still stick around. He'll do whatever he's told now. Oh, please, let me keep my job as the governor. I need to just stay in. I'll do anything you want me to do. Go ahead, just go ahead. I'll just stick around. Right? Give me a break. Anyway, this has been a topic of conversation on this live stream and on a lot of other people's live streams. Because, I mean, come on now, we're killing kids. We're killing unborn kids. So I wanted to bring the next level of this question around morality. But before I do, I want to read you one of Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. Okay. This is really important, and this is one of the linchpins. There are basically 13 rules. There are more than 13, but there are 13 main rules. And one of the rules is make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. So in this case, it's going to be for some people the Bible, right? Or the Constitution, or the rights therein that are provided by the Constitution. Because Alinsky knew that people were fallible, that if everybody had to live up to their own book of rules, that they would fall short. And therefore, there would be a chink in the armor, there'd be a vulnerability inside the person, in which case, Alinsky's charges could make an assault and go after that person's so-called vulnerability. It's a brilliant strategy because very few of us can live up to our own morality. We're human. We fail, we fall. This is what happens. And this is when we have this whole concept of forgiveness and surrender and grace and redemption, transcendence, learning, growing, perfecting, getting closer and closer every day to this spirit where we're living in alignment with the greater will, which is what I believe, this is my belief, okay, that we're here to do, to be able to clear things away so that we can live in accordance and alignment with the greater will, which is our true will. A lot of people don't really understand that, because when you're in that place and you remove all the impediments, guess what? All of a sudden, your life takes off in a supersonic trajectory, because now you're just removing the obstacles, and you're basically attaching a jetpack to your back. Okay, it's not always easy. It can take time. It can take a lot of scrutiny and a lot of deep personal change that for many people it can be very, very difficult to do, especially if we're trapped in a cycle of some kind of addiction, or we're really dealing with some very deep-seated trauma. That these kinds of transformational and pivot moments in our lives can get very tricky, very challenging. But nonetheless, they are quite possible. But Alinsky knew that for most people, they fail to live up to their own version of their own morality. So one of the 13 rules for radicals is go after it. Get them on their heels and prove that for all intents and purposes, they're hypocrites. And once they're hypocrites, then they're easily taken down. They're ashamed, right? So this is a very, very important linchpin to kind of what we're going through. And we see it over and over and over and over again. There's 12 other rules for radicals, and I've gone over them before. I'll go over it again at some other point in time. But what I wanted to bring up today, and I wanted to give you kind of a bit of a screen share today. There's another layer to what's happening with this whole abortion thing. So let me get into this. You guys are gonna, some of you have probably already seen this. Democrats block Senate bill requiring medical care for babies that survive abortion. All right, so let's just break that down, okay? So let's say, for instance, you decide you're going to abort your kid for whatever reason. You know, you're getting 30 pieces of silver, or you're freaked out and you don't want to have a child, or whatever that thing is. So you decide, okay, I'm going to abort. Well, what happens if that baby survives? Maybe, just maybe, it's, you know, the will of God, or, you know, some preordained moment of destiny that that child was going to survive. It's kind of like when somebody used to be lynched, right? When they would lynch people, and if they survived the lynching somehow, if it didn't work, they were set free. It was like, okay, you know, I guess we were wrong. God intervened here, so you know, you're lucky. Get out of here, right? So, you know, what happens to these kids? And it does happen. I'm going to read this to you. You can see this. This is from Washington Examiner. Senate Democrats on Monday blocked an effort to pass legislation. So this started in the House, right? The House proposes the bills, they vote on it, and then it gets tossed to the Senate, part of the 3 branches or 4 branches of government, right? All right, so here we go. Senate Democrats on Monday blocked an effort to pass legislation clarifying that babies who survive attempted abortions must receive medical care. So this is the woman who's spearheading this. Her name is Patty Murray. She's a Democrat from Washington State, and she's been around for quite a while. Typical dyed in the wool, you know, just check the box Democrat. So she rejected the motion to pass the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, authored by Senator Ben Sasse, Republican, Nebraska, and co-sponsored by other Republicans. So they get the bill going, right, and then they toss it over to the House. The House, you know, says, okay, we're going to turn this into a thing back to Senate, blah 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 blah, and then we have the voting process. Right? She says, oh, Ben Sasse says, you're either for babies or you're defending infanticide. And he said this before the vote. That's literally what this bill is about. Murray said, I'm objecting to the call for unanimous consent. The U.S. already had laws against infanticide, and accused Sasse of misrepresenting the purpose of this legislation. GOP senators were aiming to pressure Democrats to state whether they believe any limits should be placed on abortion after the controversial comments appearing to indicate otherwise from Democratic Virginia Governor Ralph Northam. Northam and Virginia Delegate Kathy Tran, also a Democrat, last week said they supported a state bill that appeared to allow abortion at the time of birth. Tran later said she misspoke about when abortion would be permitted. And Northam's office later released a statement saying that the governor's comments were mischaracterized and had been intended in cases where, excuse me, where a baby wouldn't survive birth because of deformity or another health issue. The abortion bill introduced in the Senate had the backing of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, who said during his opening remarks on the Senate floor Monday that the legislation was the very definition of something that might receive unanimous consent. What could be more unanimous than this? It's harrowing this legislation is even necessary, McConnell said. He added that he hoped Democrats don't invent any reasons to block this bill later today. I can assure them this won't be the last time to assure newborns are offered this final legal protection. The bill would have built on the 2002 Born Alive Infants Protection Act, which clarified that every infant member of the species of Homo sapiens who is born alive at any stage of development is a person for all federal law purposes. That law was intended to clarify that babies were supposed to receive protections if they survived an abortion. And Sasse's bill further clarifies what level of care they're supposed to receive, including being immediately transferred to a hospital. If that protocol isn't followed, then the doctor performing the abortion would face criminal prosecution. Sasse quoted Northam on the House floor, saying his comments were an endorsement of infanticide, that he tarnished the American idea of equality under law. The anti-abortion organization, Susan B. Anthony, list condemned the outcome of the bill. They urged Senate leaders to formally vote on the Born Alive Abortion Services Protection Act to see where each senator stood on the issue. Right? They want to vote because they want to know if you support life or in babies who somehow miraculously survive an abortion or you don't. Senate Democrats had the chance to prove that they are not the party of infanticide. Instead, they doubled down on extremism. Marjorie Denenfeiser, the president of the SBA list, said in a statement, Democratic Party's agenda of abortion on demand through birth and even beyond is radically out of step with the standards of decency the overwhelming majority of the Americans expect from their leaders. So is that just a trial balloon? Right? Was that just what happened with Northam and Annie Tran? By the way, the same day that Annie Tran had proposed this bill, which would basically allow these babies to be killed after they're born, she also passed a bill to essentially protect a species of caterpillar. So caterpillars get protection, but human babies don't. It's an interesting little piece of morality, don't you think? Very interesting. Now they're all backtracking. Now they're all walking it back. Well, I didn't really mean that. It was taken out of context. It's always taken out of context. I was really referring, even though, I mean, look, mean what you fucking say, okay? If it's about a deformed kid, if it's about a kid that has some kind of anomaly, birth anomaly, say it. Say it. Be clear about what you're attempting to do. Don't make us fill in the blanks, because when we fill in the blanks, we're taking you on face value. And face value that you were essentially promoting, marketing, was that, well, if the baby, we'll make sure that the mother is in a very comfortable position, and we'll make sure that the baby is also in a very comfortable place, and if the baby needs to be resuscitated, we'll resuscitate the baby, and there'll be a conversation between the provider and the mother, and we'll make sure that all of the very, very important steps are taken in order to ensure that the right thing does take place. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, they say like soft selling this thing is some kind of like, genteel Southern kind of stamp of approval. That's exactly what he said. That's exactly what he said. And the morality piece is clear, or the lack thereof. Speaking of morality, another little thing that crossed my radar yesterday. I was watching a video, a very good video on what happened in Washington on the eve of the lunar eclipse, that blood moon. And of course, there was the interaction between the Native American elder, Nathan Phillips, the kids from Covington, Nick Sandmann, and the third party, the shadowy third party that stirred it all up, the Black Hebrew Israelites. I watched a video of this thing, and it was put out by a lawyer who's representing the kids from Covington. It was very fascinating, very, very fascinating video. And some of the things that came out of that video were tweets about Nick Sandmann. And when you watch the video, it breaks everything down and shows you footage that you've never seen before, never. Okay, so if you have any preconceived notions about what this event was about, I urge you to find the video. I think what I'll do is I'll place the video in the description box for today's stream. In any case, there was one tweet that grabbed my attention, and let me introduce you to somebody, and let me introduce you to the tweet. This was very confusing for me, by the way, because first of all, I was not familiar with this person, which is, to be honest with you, something that I'm familiar with a lot of people, right? I mean, I scour the internet. That's pretty much what I do, right? It's pretty much what I do. Let me see if I can find this thing. I've got to find this character. Where is it? Okay. One sec. I had it all set up. Here we go. Hold on. Oh, this is it. Here we go. I got to go back here. Find this thing. Un momentito. Un momentito. Okay, I want to introduce you to somebody, again, new to my world. And I'm always interested in learning about new people. First of all, let me do this. I'm going to give you a little bit of a juxtaposition. Let me bring this up here. All right. Here we go. Get into screen share mode. Voila. All right. So this. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Look at that. Ooh. Wouldn't you like to go there, hang out, go on a sacred tour? This is the island of Patmos. And of course, the island of Patmos is where John, the Revelator, had his vision of the end times, apocalypse, thus ushering into the Bible, the last of the sacred texts, the book of Revelation. Now, how would you like to go to this place with these people? Well, don't they just look like very kind of light-filled and loving people? Well, this guy is somebody by the name of Reza Aslan. Now, I never heard of Reza Aslan, which is unusual, like I said, because I'm usually pretty on top of stuff. And this is his wife, Jessica Jackley. Now, together, they are a spiritual power couple. And Reza happens to be a very well-known author, writing about God and history and mythology. And he seems to be very engaged in this notion and concept of divinity and faith and the projection of that onto the world and the creation of gods and gods that rule our lives and all the ramifications that are results of this ongoing process of externalization. At least that's what I've been able to glean so far. I've not read his best-selling books. He's a Persian American. He is a professor. He's a guest on Bill Maher quite frequently. I don't watch Bill Maher. I gave that up a long time ago. But anyway, they took their peeps on a wonderful tour of this place, Patmos, right? And this is from a goodworldjourneys.com tour. Oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Really, it's really lovely. I'm not being facetious here. It's very nice. Look at that nice, deep blue Aegean Sea. Ah, could you just like hang out there? Wouldn't that be just really so peaceful? Right now? Oh, look, you get to go hang out by the pool where you're staying. You know, there's lovely red flowers. This is what you get. This is a higher love, a journey for sacred renewal. Speak a new language of love. Speak a new language so that the world will be a new world. Rumi. Higher love, a sacred journey. Jessica Jackley and Reza Aslan. So this happened this past year in June. I'll just read you the description here. Many people around the world are choosing, in the face of troubled times, to have faith in that which unites us. They're choosing to be forces of good, insisting on a collective human story that uplifts us all toward a better future. Well, not everybody's choosing the same collective story. Let's be clear about that. Joining us for a special Good World Journey Salon on the beautiful Greek Isle of Patmos, led by creative, engaging, and compassionate individuals and couples who are striving to put their beliefs in various faiths, including spiritual, not religious. God forbid you have a religious belief, because that might be a little rigid. That might be just a tad extreme. Let's keep it into the soft underbelly of spiritual. No, I get it. Trust me, I get it. Into practice on their own journey within their relationships and families, and in the wider world. We are excited to welcome Jessica Jackley and Reza Aslan, two shining human spirits who we believe help represent the best of the human family. To join us on Patmos, to co-steward this salon with us, Jessica and Reza will also be joined in our conversations. A number of inspiring change-making couples and individuals who will serve as salon discussants. It's a weird discussant. What are you? Oh, I'm a discussant. A discussant seems like something you would take if you had like the flu or something, you know. All right, here we go. This salon is an opportunity to be part of a meaning life, affirming conversations, and a relaxed and rejuvenating landscape. So I get to mentally masturbate while we're out here in this beautiful place. Right? I'm just checking out a little bit. The dialogues and connections. I'm sure something good can happen. The dialogues and connections that unfold will help us to deepen spiritual resilience, better understand faith traditions, and reflect upon positive actions that we can take as global citizens, families in our communities, the world today. Global citizens, mind you. Patmos is regarded as a place that awakens reverence, where the soul can find grace, connection, and a greater sense of depth to help us reset our compass. The island provides a welcoming setting where ancient wisdom is more easily revealed among kindred souls, conversation, providing sanctuary for rebirth and renewal. There will be ample time to wander, explore the ancient, radiant island landscape, a truly thin place in this world that speaks to our higher selves and serves to restore and renew the soul. So you go there, and the veil is very thin. Something magical is going to happen. You're going to hear the voice of God. Right? That's what they're intimating here. Oh, we got another quote. Every man has within him his Patmos. An element of the boundless enters into his life, into his conscience, into his virtue, into his philosophy. He lives in a sort of diffused prayer, and strange indeed attaches himself to an interdeterminate certainty, which he calls God. That's Victor Hugo, author of Les Miserables. Nice quote about Patmos. Here's what you get. For a 10-night stay, you get $2,950 per person. That's not including airfare. $1,000 for a single room, limited number available, and a $300 discount for one spouse sharing room. Airfare and transport to and on Patmos not included. You get a 10-night stay at a scenic hotel. You get a breakfast. You get a dinner party, a welcoming dinner party. You get the salon program sessions. You get a boat excursion to a nearby isle. You get the monastery cave tour and a farewell dinner party. Everything else, you got to pay for. Lunch, dinner. Well, who are these people that are going to be your guides, your journeys? Who are going to lead the discussants? Well, we have Jessica Jackley. She is a social entrepreneur, an investor who co-founded Kiva, the world's most successful micro-lending website empowering entrepreneurs. Okay, I'm cool with that. Sounds great. She's the author of Clay Water Brick, finding inspiration from entrepreneurs who do the most with least, and teaches social entrepreneurship at the Marshall School of Business at the University of Southern California. And she is a partner at Spark Labs Global Ventures, serves on numerous boards of directors, including the beloved Habitat for Humanity. So she has a conscience. She has a moral compass, seems to be acting from it on a daily basis, putting beliefs into practice. What's wrong with that? Now, who is this guy? Well, hello, Mr. Reza Aslan. He is an internationally renowned writer, commentator, producer, and scholar of religions. He is the author of the brand new bestseller, God, the Human History and Zealot, The Life and Times of Jesus of Nazareth, a momentous work of popular scholarship. In addition to his role as a consulting producer on the acclaimed HBO series, The Leftovers, Aslan is executive producer of two other original television programs, Rough Draft with Reza Aslan, that's premiering at Ovation, and CNN's documentary series, Believer, as well as the Emmy-nominated documentary series, The Secret Life of Aslan. He's Persian American, he's a smart guy. And these are the two people that run this whole thing, Jenny Yancey and Dan Siegel. They've been designing and leading purpose-driven gatherings, conversation retreats, and global travel for 30 years. They got a nice gig. Props and kudos to the two of them for doing that. All right. Well, this Mr. Aslan seems to be a very kind of reverent person, understanding the depth and dimensions of spirituality causality, mythology, everything that goes along with our relationship with the divine, which might be real, false, synthetic, created, projected. He's got the answers. Must be a very moral man. You know where I'm going with this? Yeah. I'm going to a different kind of place. And I'm going to find you that place right here. In the wake of the Covington controversy, Mr. Reza Aslan had a very controversial and what I would say would be a very non-spiritual sort of tweet. Here it is. Honest questions. Honest question. Have you ever seen a more punchable face than this kid's? Okay. I saw the 15-minute clip. He was doing everything in his power to deal with this guy. By the way, it looks like he's taller than Mr. Phillips. He's not. He's shorter. He was up on a couple steps up. And this kid was thrust into a situation where he had this dude banging a drum in his head, right in his face, looking straight at him, like somebody from another planet. He probably was. So put yourself in that kid's situation. How are you going to react? How are you going to deal with this? You know, he's trying to somehow keep it together. And there are actually some clips that follow what happens here. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's either this kid or this kid here. One of Nathan Phillips' peeps, one of the Native Americans that were marching that day, the same time this March for Life was going on. The first Indigenous Peoples March on the city of Washington, D.C. One of his peeps comes in and starts haranguing one of Nick Sandmann's classmates and taking him to task about being white. And, you know, he's angry, he's got an agenda. And Nick Sandmann, to his credit, you've got to watch this video, basically tells his buddy, you know, be quiet, don't say anything. You know, it wasn't necessarily about out of respect. It was like, just don't engage. You know, we don't want to get into it with these people. He had a very heady moment. But of course, Mr. Aslan didn't see that. Like many other people, all they saw was this picture. And hundreds and thousands of people made up their mind about this picture because the narrative had already been set. The die had already been cast. And people made a lot of assumptions about what was going on with that event, including this guy. Okay? Have you ever seen a more punchable face than this kid's? Maybe if I was on Patmos hanging out with Reza and Jesse and the discussants, you know, we could ask him about his reaction to this picture and how it perhaps slightly contradicts his pantheon tomes of scholarly and insightful analysis around the notion of what it is to be human, to be religious, to be spiritual. Because he's purporting himself at a high level to be a priest, a high priest of some sort of secular translation of these traditions. I don't have a problem with that. But some people had a problem with his tweet because that's his choice, right? He's doing it. You could either reject his material, argue his material. This is it. This is the marketplace of ideas, theoretically, right? Fast forward to today when suddenly Aslan has a problem with violent rhetoric on Twitter because people complained about his tweet. They went to Jack Dorsey and the Twitter people and said, man, this guy is violent. He's threatening violence against a kid. Theoretically, hello, we have received a complaint regarding your account at Reza Aslan for the following content. Okay, we have investigated the reported content, could not identify any violations with Twitter rules. It's like, you know, he's free to say that. He can say it, but of course there's consequences. Here's what he has to say. Hey, at Twitter, how's the complaint over your users saying they're going to kidnap and kill my kids coming along? Well, We got a few standards here, Mr. Aslan. Perhaps they're double standards. Assuming Aslan's not blowing smoke about the threat, should Twitter users be threatening Aslan's kids with violence and murder? Hell no. I should agree with that. But why is violent talk only a problem when Aslan is the target? Who gave him immunity when it comes to fanning the flames of violence? Nick Cole says, laugh aloud. Sorry, is punching not cool anymore? Justin, wait, did you suggest that someone else's child should be violently assaulted to met out some old world vengeance? Any references the tweet. Have you ever seen a more punchable face than this kid's? Awkward, right? There's more. Caleb Hall says, okay. And it's okay. And it's not as if Aslan's punchable tweet was a one-off. He also tweeted this just today after his complaints about Twitter's inaction, no less. I prefer to punch your face if that's a possibility, felon. And he's got some kind of a link to a video, which I did not. That's not long ago, 21st of January, a couple of weeks ago. How do you like that? How many threats of violence does somebody get on Twitter? I thought it was 0, but maybe that's just for white folks. Twitter, Reza Aslan. What can we say? Some violent rhetoric is more equal than others. So I just wanted to just bring that up, right? Here's a guy, and I think this is a big challenge in our world. You know, this is a big challenge in our society because what we're dealing with is we're dealing with profound, really profound moral questions about life, the meaning of life, who gets to have it, who doesn't get to have it. But it's more than that. It's more than that. There's sort of this higher level of accountability that somehow we all seem to have to abide by. Meanwhile, the people that run governments around the world, the gangs in suits and ties, well, they don't have any problem. They don't have a problem with their lack of accountability. They don't have any problem with their lack of theoretical morality. So this is really, again, kind of another divide and conquer, you know, Sturm und Drang amongst the rest of us, where we get to sort of duke it out while they're running around, sort of portioning the planet, parceling out the resources, and doing what they do, what they've been doing for a very, very long time. So the whole morality piece is quite interesting. And in the context, theoretically, if somebody purports at the very least to know a lot about God, maybe he's reinterpreting and reinventing his own personal scripture. In which case, more power to him. Let's see how that works for you and how it lines up and how it's supported in your life and in the greater cosmos in general. Let me check in with you guys on Chatville. Let me see what's going on here. We got Marianne Williamson has announced her candidacy for the Democratic nomination in the presidency. Oh, good for her. One of what, 30 other people? Good luck. Kid kept his cool, unlike the hysterical adults. I saw a smiling child. Others saw a sneering student. I saw hated. Only one. I thought Nick Salmon had remarkable restraint. So the chief starts and finishes. Well, leaving us all a quiver. Zen is a bugger, isn't he? Ha, ha, ha. What else we got here? Zen in the arts of pugilism. There's Sophia, aka our good friend Suze. How you doing, Suze? Hello, Max. Hi, Shari. Hi, Mary. Oswald Spain with the new atheists hate him. But that's not a good reason to like him. Okay. That name rings a bell. Reza Aslan is such a toxic fraud. I just got introduced to this guy. And it's like, come on, man. That's a come on, man moment. Somebody with a higher perspective would have looked at that picture and said, can we suspend our judgment for a moment? Let's find out more. Let's find out more facts. Let's find out really what's going on here. What else do we have here? Sticky Marks talking about read Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Didn't help me. My father read that book. I haven't read it. Beginner's Mind. I'm sure you must have read Zen in the Art of Archery. No, I have not. I've read Ted in the Art of Archery, also known as Ted Nugent. So the chief starts and finishes well. Yeah. Interesting stuff. So the sole question of morality and the personal code is something that we all have to live by and answer to on a daily basis. And in many cases, we wind up tripping over ourselves and falling. And but we get to learn from it, and we get to readjust and grow and figure out where we have holes in our game, chinks in our armor. And when that happens, it's probably best not to defend it, but to do our best to understand it and bring some light to it. All right, anything else here? What's your position on climate change? I don't want to change the climate. I like the climate the way it is. Reza of God, there we go. Sorry, I'm new to your work. That's okay. I think climate change, honestly, is a scam. It's a scam. Here's what I think. I think we're headed into a solar minimum. And instead of carbon, what we really have to be very, very concerned about is methane, because the permafrost is starting to excrete high levels of methane, which are very dangerous, okay? And the ocean floor is excreting high levels of methane. You get cases of spontaneous combustion, and you have a lot of methane in the atmosphere. So climate change, yeah, I mean, I don't buy into the corporate standard of climate change. I do think things are going on. We're headed into a solar minimum, and the methane levels are something we need to be concerned about. That's my version of climate change. So there's my position. What else we have here? Farts. Yeah, farts. It's not just any farts, though. Not all farts are created equal. You probably know that, right? That there are some farts that are, much more benign. There's even divine farts. Like if you sit in proximity with somebody who's sacred and they fart in your proximity, that's actually considered a blessing. Did you know that? Try it sometime. Yeah, I recommend it because you're getting their kind of sacred essence. And other people who are not as morally pure or sacred, and you stand in the presence of their farts, well, that's a whole different experience. Okay, but choose your farts wisely. I love your owl statues. I know, man. This owl's cool, right? It's all cool. Ecocentric. Universal Orlando has a butt-naked troll that farts glitter at guests. There you go, man. They're all over it. Hard to find a holy person nowadays. Juana, you're about as holy as it gets, right? I mean, I think that's the change. The priestly class is over. 300 new priests in Texas have been uncovered by Leo Zagami as being pedophiles. The Catholic Church was invaded and infested by a group of satanic pedophiles. The priestly class at that level is over. And it was never supposed to be in existence for very long anyway. We are the sole arbiters, interpreters of our own divine experience. And that's the way it was always supposed to be. That was the message. The church and the minders of the church and the riches of the church and the reformations of the church, they're all, just iterations and ultimately sacrilegious illusions placed on the original message. In the original moment, divine dispensation, which was granted to each and every one of us. So when you say there's no more holy people these days, I would beg to differ. I'd say you're as holy as the man sitting in the Vatican. But you never forget that. All right. We use an expression around when somebody gets too spiritual. You're so enlightened, you fart orbs. I love that. That is so funny. That's it. All right. I'm out of here. Listen, use your head and discern what's real. Your heart to see when it's possible, because that really is the gateway to your own divinity and your own human experience. You're the gatekeeper. You are the gatekeeper. Remember that. All right, I'm out of here. I'll be back tomorrow with more fun facts. Hopefully a little bit shorter. I had to get a lot in there today. A lot to share about Mr. Aslan. All right, this is Robert Phoenix, and you can find me at robertphoenix.com. And the transition's in place. We're getting closer and closer to doing this on my website on a daily basis. Stay tuned with that. Have a great day.